I'm Brittany Lewis with Forbes Breaking News. During a Senate Foreign Relations Committee hearing, Senator Tim Kaine commented on the fraught relationship between the United States and Iran. Kaine highlighted that there is a complete lack of trust on both sides. He said, quote, "Iran is a danger to the United States, but in the Iranian perspective, the U.S. is dangerous and untrustworthy." Take a listen to his full remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Mr. Malley. I want to encourage you to just keep the dialogue going and the administration come up with the very best deal that you can. There are some on this committee who are basically telling you stop dialogue right now. Don't accept that advice. Do your best, and then if you find a product that you think is better than what's going on right now, bring it to Congress and let Congress own it. Let Congress own whether the U.S. is a diplomatic nation or whether we reject diplomacy. Let us own it. You do your job and let us own whether the U.S. is pro-diplomacy or not. The problem with the U.S. and Iran is a complete lack of trust on both sides. Iran is a danger to the United States, and everything that's been said by folks prior to me about Iranian dangerous activity is real. But in the Iranian perspective, the U.S. is dangerous and untrustworthy. The U.S. helped depose an Iranian prime minister in 1954. The U.S. helped install the Shah of Iran, who ruled in a dictatorial fashion over Iranians for 25 years. When the Shah was overthrown, the U.S., against the State Department's advice, gave him sanctuary in the United States. That then led to the takeover of the U.S. Embassy. Because of that horrible treatment of Americans with the embassy takeover, the U.S. decided to support Iraq in the Iraq-Iran war, giving military assets to Iraq that were used against the Iranian people. The U.S. gave intel to the Iraqis that allowed them to use chemical weapons against the Iranian people. In the middle of the Iraq-Iran war, the USS Vincennes shot down an Iranian airliner, killing 290 civilians when that commercial airliner was in Iranian airspace. So all of the atrocities that Iran is committing in the region and the danger that's posed to the United States, those are all very, very real. But often here we like to just talk about half the story and assume that we're just like completely with clean hands in this situation. And why would Iran have any mistrust of the United States? The deal that you guys got, the JCPOA in 2015, was dramatically better than the status quo ante. Dramatically better. I remember going to Israel in the months before the deal was struck and having off-the-record discussions with the leader of the Mossad, and he said, "You should do this. Tamir Parda, you should do this. It's dramatically better than the status quo ante, even if it's not perfect." It was better because it constrained their nuclear program. It was better because it got the U.S. to not only be in partnership with traditional allies, but we were even in a negotiation and a partnership with China and Russia to try to constrain the nuclear program. And it opened up an opportunity after 65 years of hostility between the U.S. and Iran to at least be at the table and see if we could work something out and do the only thing that ever brings trust back is win it back little and by little and by little. But only 2 years into the deal, the U.S. blew it up when the IAEA said Iran was complying, and we shifted the focus away from Iranian activity to U.S. good faith. We destroyed the trust-building opportunity that if it had gone forward, it would have taken a long time to build the trust back. But now that the U.S. has walked out of a deal that Iran was complying with, why would they do a deal? As soon as the U.S. walked out of that deal, essentially all the real negotiations with North Korea over a deal stopped, because why would North Korea do a nuclear deal with the United States if the U.S. blew up a deal that was working with Iran? And so, yes, there is a siren song up here that says, stop talking. Oh, and if Iran gets a nuclear weapons, we'll let Israel worry about it. I would urge you, do not listen to that siren. Do not listen to that siren. Keep talking. If there's a deal that you think is better than what's happening right now, and I think you have a pretty clear-eyed assessment of the pluses and minuses, I urge the administration to enter into it, submit it to Congress under ANARA, let Congress own the decision of whether or not the U.S. wants to be a pro-diplomacy nation or not. I yield back.
Thank you, Senator Kaine. Are there any Republicans present and waiting to be recognized to question? In the absence of that, I will proceed to question. Mr. Malley, thank you for appearing before the committee today. While the conflict in Ukraine has